What's up everybody, it's Joe here with Joseph Blake Photography, and in today's video we're going to be going through a deep dive of the DJI Air 3S. We're going to talk about the cameras, we're going to talk about the obstacle avoidance, we're going to talk about whether or not they hit our expectations for this new drone. Again, my name is Joe. I am a portrait and adventure photographer here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and this is my channel, Joseph Blake Photography, where we talk about tech and news and gear and reviews and how-tos. We go out on adventures, and we really just dive into all the technology and techniques that we use as creators, whether it's here on YouTube, elsewhere in social media, if you're delivering to clients, or if you're just giving great stuff to your family and friends so that they can see themselves in amazing situations. That's the type of thing that we talk about here on this channel. So if you're interested in that, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button. And if at the end of the video, once you've watched all the way through, because that's what the YouTube algorithm cares about, if you think that I've done a good job, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like button. Social media links and links to all of the gear that I use down below. But enough about me, let's talk about this drone. So the Air 3S has officially been announced. It's available for purchase. I do not have one. I'm gonna tell you that right now before you come at me in the comments. I don't have it. Why? Because DJI didn't send it to me. So anybody that you're seeing posting videos right now got it directly from DJI as part of their marketing push, except for those folks who live near a DJI store, like athlete and tech enthusiast DC Rainmaker, where he went heavily into, as he normally does, into the obstacle avoidance and following components of this drone. So we got pretty much everything that we had been talking about. Again, I was really hoping that we would be seeing double 1-inch sensors, but we only saw the one in the 24mm. This is not the same 1-inch sensor that we had in the Mavic Pro 2 in 2018, right? That sensor has really started to age, but it was a Hasselblad sensor. That is not the sensor that we're getting now. We're getting a 50 megapixel 1-inch sensor that is brand new, along with the 1/1.3-inch sensor in the 70mm telephoto lens that is also brand new. We are also getting brand new imaging pipeline, brand new imaging processing system to take advantage of both that new sensor as well as that updated sensor in the zoom lens. That's some of the stuff that's new. Let's talk about some of the stuff that hasn't really changed. The weight, it's still about 720, this time 724 grams. Still about 40 plus minutes of flight time, 45 now, just a little bit more. And while it will be coming with new batteries, the old batteries will lock in properly. So if you're investing in a lot of the Air 3 batteries, those will work. Again, still a 24mm and a 70mm telephoto lens. No real changes on the apertures, up from 1.7 to 1.8, still 2.8 on the 1/1.3. Obviously, we've got that slight bump in the resolution on the big camera and a huge bump in ISO capability in both cameras. And specifically in the large camera, a lot of that is from the better sensor as well as the improved imaging pipeline. So on paper, this really just looks like DJI really just kind of flexed a few things, right? They made the sensor a little bit bigger. They've improved low light performance considerably with that larger sensor and the improved imaging pipeline, while keeping the weight and batteries the same. A couple of small things that they've also tweaked. You can now connect your computer to the drone, use it as a reader without having to turn it on, which is much appreciated. And again, with that new sensor, they are claiming 14 stops of dynamic range, and it can shoot 4K 60 in HDR. They've also added the new free panorama feature, next generation smart return to home, and as we've seen with some of the other new DJI drones, they've incorporated vision assist with the ability for you to access those wide angle obstacle avoidance sensing cameras so that you too can see yourself hitting a tree. Now, the new follow performance has been improved with Active Track 360, and OcuSync 4 has that 20-kilometer image distance at 1080p. One other very much appreciated little detail that they've added in is the additional onboard storage. They've added 42 gigabytes of storage, so if you've forgotten your card or if you've run out of space on the card while you're flying, capturing some amazing scene, you can switch over to internal storage. And as we've talked about in other videos, the Fly More combos will be coming with those ND sets. I believe there's an 832 and a 128, as well as that 0.6 magnification wide angle, which I'm actually very curious to see that in action. But the ND filters are where I kind of want to shift focus towards what I'm probably going to title this video as, which is, I don't think this is for pros. And it might not be for the reasons that you think. I'm very excited for the fact that this has the 1-inch sensor. And I'm actually kind of fine with the 1/1.3 inch sensor. It's still improved. I would have appreciated a 1-inch sensor there, but that's okay. You're still getting 10-bit color depth out of both. You're still getting great low light performance out of both. And with the new LiDAR sensor on the camera, giving you much more opportunities to fly in low light environments where it would have been very difficult to use obstacle avoidance, this definitely opens you up for more opportunities. But that's kind of where it stops. And so the number one thing that I have an issue with is the fact that while upgrading it to a 1-inch sensor and including the ND filters, there is not a variable aperture on this lens. And if you are flying in sunrise or sunset or in cloudy conditions or at really right after sunset, into blue hour, the light changes so fast and you need the capability, you need the flexibility to be able to manipulate your image to get the best quality. And to be quite honest, you're not going to be able to do that by throwing on an ND filter and hoping that it's the right one. I shoot with variable NDs and I still need to adjust my aperture, sometimes just depending on the direction that I'm flying. Because if I'm locked in the 180-degree rule, right? If I'm shooting at 24 frames per second and I want to be shooting at 1/50, and I want to be shooting at ISO 100, the only thing that I can really manipulate is my aperture. And if I don't have that control, then that means I have to shift to doing one of those other things. If I start bumping things up or down, then I might be introducing noise. If I increase my shutter speed, I'm going to be changing the way that the motion blur works on some of these cinematic shots, which is not what you want to be doing. At the same time, with an f1.8 aperture, that is very wide open. And for anyone who shoots even landscapes or portraits, when you shoot that wide open, you know that your depth of field is going to be rather shallow. Whether it's at 24 millimeters or in the f2.8 at 70 millimeters, you're still going to have a rather shallow depth of field. And so if you're looking for those panoramic landscapes, you want the clearest image possible. And if you're shooting in good light, you're going to want to bump that up to f4, f5.6, f8 maybe if you're shooting in a bright environment. And without the ability to do that at all on this camera, you lose a lot of the flexibility that I think is necessary to be able to consider this something for professionals. Now I know it doesn't have pro in the name, so maybe you're gonna say, well, duh, of course it's not for pros. But I like the idea of a 2-camera drone that's lighter than a kilo that gives me the ability to capture these great shots. And that's where we come to the second issue here. DJI has indicated that they have improved their compression algorithms on the footage that comes off of this drone to be 30% better, meaning that they can control file size and still keep the same amount of quality while requiring 30% less bandwidth, which then resulted in them dropping the bitrate down from 150 to 130 megabits per second.
Here we go again.
Now, if you have been paying any attention to the Action 5 Pro debacle, there were a lot of people upset that the Action 5 Pro was limiting the amount of bandwidth. And a lot of users asked DJI to make a change, and they've actually indicated that they might, in a firmware update, make something available to users, knowing that that would potentially reduce battery life, increase potential heat, and increase file sizes. And I think, to be quite honest, they did the same thing here. They said, okay, well, we've got this new processor that's doing all of this work and it can do a better job at compression and we can keep the battery life the same. I think honestly, if they had left the bitrate at where it was at 150, but given us 20 or 30% more information at that same bitrate, we would have been okay with a minute or two less battery life. Or give us the option to go 100, 150, 200 megabits per second if you have a card that supports it, knowing that the battery life would be another variable that we would have to manage. Now, I appreciate where they priced this drone at. It has the same price for the drone only as the previous model. I am kind of confused as to why the previous model hasn't seen a price cut, but we'll see if that happens over the next couple of days. At the same time, you could spend $175 more and get the Mavic 3 Classic with a micro four thirds sensor on the 24mm side. Now you lose the zoom lens in that case. That's a part of your need, but I would say if you need the zoom lens, that the Air 3S is actually a better buy right now than maybe even the Mavic 3 Pro at its price. With the Air 3S having OcuSync 4, coming with the RC2 controller at $1599, that's a steal if you need the zoom lens. But if not, I would honestly go with the Mavic 3 Classic, especially if you can handle that additional 200 grams of weight. So again, to recap, we got that 1-inch sensor, awesome. New imaging pipeline, awesome. Batteries still fit, fantastic. Internal memory, wow. Pricing, fantastic. It's not a pro camera, and they're doing weirdness with the bit rates. Now that's something that they can update in firmware down the road. The variable aperture they cannot. So I am both excited and happy about this drone, but also I'm still a little torn. And I don't think that this would be the direction that I would go as someone who is primarily shooting adventure and landscape video with my drone, where I need that flexibility for those cinematic shots. Those are my thoughts on the Air 3S. I appreciate you watching. If this is the kind of thing that you're interested in, if this is the conversation that you want to be in, I'd appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button. Go ahead and hit the like button if you thought that I did a good job here. Socials down below. Obviously, if you want to watch my Tahoe video, which does have clips from my Mavic 2 Pro, or subscribe to the channel, you can do it right here. And I will see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.